That was truly amazing.
It was kismet. I was visiting the Twin Cities at the time, and my Thanksgiving break was going on. It was the Friday after Thanksgiving, and I was visiting a friend who worked downtown but lived over in the Nokomis neighborhood, and so I was taking the train down to meet him for lunch. And I just hopped on the train. It was like 11:30 on a Friday afternoon, and this person gets on with her bike, and it's this kind of weather. It was Thanksgiving, and I said, "Wow, you're really brave to ride your bike in this weather." And that was the first thing I said to Cathy.
It was not uncommon for me at the time to get on the train with my bike and take it downtown and then ride my bike across from the Hennepin Avenue station, or whatever they call it, to the college. And so I was just doing what I do, and I didn't remember that it was the Friday after Thanksgiving, but I must have been stopping by for some reason. Anyway, I was thrilled to be able to meet Irene, and that she made some comment about my bike. And so we talked together the whole time that we rode together.
Cathy is very passionate about teaching environmental science, and so that came up pretty quickly. And then I'm passionate about teaching too. I'd been teaching in some learning communities and doing a lot of work with the concept of learning communities. And she got so excited because she was at the time teaching the only learning community at MCTC.
And it was all focused on the environment. It was called Race to Save the Planet. And it integrated environmental science, political science, and ethics. So, it was powerful.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we had a lot in common, and who would have known, thanks to the bicycle.
Right. And so we exchanged contact information and said, let's get together next time you're in town. I met up with her. I took the train and walked to MCTC and met up with her on the Friday of exam week just for coffee. And she introduced me to people at the college, where I learned that there was an open position. So that changed my life.
Yeah. Is that amazing or what? About that timing? I mean, really.
Yeah. She introduced me to some of her colleagues, people in English, and one of them, we were chatting about learning communities and teaching and this and that, and they said, "Oh, do you need a job?" Right away. So I knew who to contact, and it turned out I got hired officially in July of 2009.
Okay.
And I moved here in August of 2009.
We've worked together on a whole variety of interdisciplinary things, including currently on the Sustainability Committee, which I have continued to be a part of.
Even when she retired?
Even when I retired 3 years ago, yes. Well, for me, there were a number of reasons. Probably at the top of the list was the environmental sustainability of transit. Much lower greenhouse gas emissions. If I'm riding my bike and getting on a train that's, electric, yes, there are some fossil fuels used to generate the electricity, but not nearly as many as a car or, thank you, or other types of individual transportation. So the combination of biking and taking the train was really good. Made me feel good when I did it, plus the exercise of riding my bike on a more regular basis. So it was a win-win all the way around. Plus I enjoyed it. And I had some other nice conversations too.
Well, I had been living in Iowa, and I was commuting 45 minutes or 50 minutes one way to my job at the time, and then I would drive up here when I visited, and so I wanted to use the least energy possible while I was here. Also, I wasn't comfortable yet driving in the city. I had just started visiting, and I knew how to use it, and it was so quick, and it was so easy, and I wouldn't arrive somewhere like anxious or with agitated from trying to find parking or driving through the city or all the types of things. So it just was a lot nicer. It was lovely to be able to just get on the train and let somebody take me where I needed to be, and to see people. I enjoyed watching people. I like walking, and so you have to walk to get to either place because of the exercise, but also just it feels good to walk places. When I met Cathy, it was in 2008. I had actually had a pretty bad car accident earlier that year that made me reconsider the commute I was doing and a lot of the driving I was doing. And when I learned that I could get a job up here that was a place that had public transportation so readily available, I thought I would love to do that. And so that played a big role in my choosing to come here and get a job, is the fact that the transit system was so good and reliable and clean and easy to navigate. Once I came up here, I continued. I lived in the Nokomis neighborhood, and then I moved to the Whittier neighborhood, where I also had good access to MCTC by light rail. Then I moved to Uptown. Again, I always make sure that I have a chance to get on public transit to where I need to go all the time. And I came here today on public transit. Took the bus.
What motivated me lots of times, there's a phrase that people say, hey, practice what you preach. And I changed that phrase to practice what you teach. And so when I need to stay true to what I'm teaching and giving away to others. I can't give away what I don't have. So that's a really, really important concept, I think. And then I ended up learning to take the light rail train with some field trips that my students and I went on. And it was really cool because that way they could also experience, especially those that hadn't, that they could actually do some of the things they were learning about.
Mm-hmm. And I think riding light rail, we practice what we teach. Yes, I teach environmental stuff also, even though I'm teaching English and gender studies. I'm always bringing in the intersections with the environment and our ecological footprint, and sustainability. But when I do that, I have a better connection with my students. Many of my students ride on the light rail. I would often get on or a bus. I'd get on the bus and I'd see one of my students would be the driver maybe.
Wow.
or would be there, and we'd chat on the way to get to wherever we needed to go. So like it felt like I was more connected to the students by and not just being this teacher who came in a car. And there's such a separation, but at a community college, our students are our community. We're all part of the same community, and it kind of lessened that gap of separation. Well, I would say that you never know what's going to happen when you're riding on public transit. You never know when you're going to make a friend, somebody that will be your friend for decades.
That's true.
So,
yeah, I would say
you never know.
very similarly that surprises happen and sometimes they feel so right. So I guess for me, it teaches me more to just honor the present rather than be thinking about what's happening somewhere in the future or the past, and stay open. And I think about also the whole idea of community and the role of transit in the community. I think about the biological definition of community, not just the human definition. And that definition is all living organisms living and interacting in a given area at a given time. So that when we are building healthy community, we need to consider all the organisms, not just ourselves. And I do believe that transit is a piece of that puzzle. So, yay.
Yeah. It is. It's a piece of that puzzle, and also it's clean, it's efficient, it's quick, it's how we get places. And you don't have to worry about paying for parking, and you don't have to find parking, and there's just so much thinking that is reduced. You know, you can spend your time reading on a train. I read several books while I was
just
doing my
looking out
commute.
the window. Or looking out the window.
So much.
On we go.